All right, Algebra students, here is our video review for the Chapter 1 test. Looking at number 1, we have negative 5/4 x equals 65 over 16. We need to undo multiplication by the fraction negative 5/4. And the way we're going to do that is we are going to flip and multiply. That means we're going to multiply both sides of the equation by the reciprocal of negative 5/4, which is negative 4/5. So now on the left-hand side, these cancel out, leaving us with x. And on the right-hand side, we can do some simplifying first. 4 and 16 can be divided by 4. So this becomes a 1, and this becomes a 4. And 65 and 5 can be divided by 5. So this becomes a 1, and this becomes a 13. So now we have 13/4 times negative 1 over 1. And so our answer is negative 13 over 4. Remember that your answers must always be in simplest form, and 13 over 4 is in simplest form. Of course, if you wanted to, you could also write this as the mixed number 3 and 1/4. All right, number 2, we have 8m plus 8 equals 144. So the first thing we're going to do is undo addition or subtraction. We're going to get rid of this positive 8 by subtracting 8 from both sides. Now on the left-hand side, the 8's cancel each other out, leaving us with 8m. And on the right, 144 minus 8 is 136. Second step, undo multiplication or division. We have to get rid of this 8, which is multiplying m, so we're going to divide both sides by 8. On the left, the 8's cancel each other out, leaving us with m. And on the right, 136 divided by 8 is 17. On to number 3. Step 1, undo addition or subtraction. So we need to get rid of this positive 8. We're going to subtract 8 from both sides. On the left, the 8's cancel out, leaving us with a over 8. And on the right, 7 minus 8, different sign subtract, and keep the sign of the bigger number. That is going to be negative 1. Now we need to undo multiplication or division. A is being divided by 8, so in order to undo that, we're going to multiply both sides by 8. On the left-hand side, the 8's cancel out, leaving us with a. And on the right-hand side, negative 1 times 8 is negative 8. All right, number 4, we have negative half a minus 1 equals negative 17 over 10. Step 1, undo addition or subtraction. So we have to get rid of this negative 1, and in order to do that, we're going to add 1 to both sides. But since this is a fraction, I want to rewrite this whole number 1 as a fraction using the same denominator of 10. So I can rewrite 1 as 10 over 10. And now I can go ahead and add them together. So negative 17 over 10 plus 10 over 10, different sign, we're going to subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number. 17 minus 10 is 7, and this is negative. It's a larger fraction, so we're going to have negative 7/10. Now we have negative 1/2 a equals negative 7/10. We have to undo multiplication by the fraction negative half, and the way we do that is we're going to flip and multiply. We're going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of negative half, which is negative 2 over 1. On the left, these cancel out, leaving us with a. And on the right, negative times negative is positive, and 7 times 2 is 14, and 10 times 1 is 10. But this is not in simplest form, and our answer needs to be in simplest form. So we need to divide both of these, the top and the bottom of this fraction by 2, leaving us with our correct answer, 7 over 5. For number 5, we have b minus 8.2 over 2 equals negative 5.1. Now, normally in a two-step equation, we would undo addition or subtraction first, but we can't do that here because b minus 8.2 is part of this fraction. So we need to get rid of this fraction. And in order to get rid of a fraction, we need to get rid of the denominator. What is the denominator doing to the top? Dividing it. How do we undo division? By multiplication. So we're going to multiply both sides of this equation by 2. On the left, the 2's cancel out, and that's going to leave us with b minus 8.2. And on the right, negative 5.1 times 2 is going to be negative 10.2. So now we have b minus 8.2 equals negative 10.2. And now we can get rid of this negative 8.2 by adding 8.2 to both sides. On the left, these cancel out, leaving us with b. And on the right, negative 10.2 plus 8.2, again, different sign, subtract, and keep the sign of the bigger number. So our answer is going to be negative 2. Next, we have 3.4x plus 3.2x equals negative 23.76. So what we can do before we solve this equation is combine like terms. 3.4x and 3.2x are both on the left side of the equation, so we could combine them together. 3.4x plus 3.2x is 6.6x. So now we have 6.6x equals negative 23.76. So all we got to do is divide both sides by 6.6. On the left, these cancel out, leaving us with x. And on the right, negative 23.76 divided by 6.6 is negative 3.6. All right, looking at number 7, we have negative 11.5 equals b minus 0.9 minus 4.7. So again, in this equation, we can combine like terms before solving. Negative 0.9 and negative 4.7 can be combined because they are both constants. So negative 0.9 minus 4.7, they're both negative. That means we're going to add them together and keep the sign. Negative 0.9 minus 4.7 is negative 5.6. We copy down the rest of this equation. So now we have negative 11.5 equals b minus 5.6. And now we have to get rid of this negative 5.6. So we're going to add 5.6 to both sides. On the right, these cancel out, leaving us with b. And on the left, negative 11.5 plus 5.6 is negative 5.9. Number 8, we have 5 times the quantity of 3 plus 5x equals negative 85. So in this problem, we're going to need to use the distributive property before we can solve. So we're going to multiply 5 times 3, and that is 15. And then we're going to multiply 5 times 5x, and that is 25x, equals negative 85. Next, we have to get rid of this positive 15. So we're going to subtract 15 from both sides. These cancel out, leaving us with 25x equals negative 100. Why negative 100? Because same sign, add them together and keep the sign. Next, we have to divide both sides by 25. On the left, these cancel out, leaving us with x. And on the right, negative 100 divided by 25 is negative 4. On to number 9. Negative 12 plus b equals 4b plus 6. So now this is an equation with variables on both sides. We have 1b on the left and 4b on the right. These cannot be combined because they are not on the same side of the equation. Remember that the equal sign is always the middle of every equation. So now we need to get rid of one of these. We do that by addition or subtraction. If it's positive, we subtract. If it's negative, we add. And it's always a good idea to get rid of the variable of lesser value. So in this case, we're going to get rid of 1b by subtracting 1b from both sides. So on the left, the b's cancel out, leaving us with negative 12. And on the right, 4b minus 1b is 3b. And we bring down the plus 6. Next, we need to get rid of this positive 6. So we are going to subtract 6 from both sides. On the right, the 6's cancel each other out, leaving us with 3b. And on the left, negative 12 minus 6, same sign, add them together and keep the sign. That is negative 18. Then finally, we're going to divide both sides by 3. On the right, the 3's cancel out, leaving us with b. And on the left, negative 18 divided by positive 3 is negative 6. Number 10, we have negative 2n plus 4 times the quantity of 8n plus 1 equals 4 times the quantity of 1 minus n plus 3n. So first thing we need to take care of is this distributive property on both sides of the equation. So we have here negative 2n, then 4 times 8n, that is 32n, and then 4 times 1, that's 4. On the other side, 4 times 1 is 4, and 4 times negative n is negative 4n plus 3n. Now we can combine some like terms. On the left, we have negative 2n plus 32n. That is going to be 30n, because different signs subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number. And on the right, we have negative 4n and positive 3n. That's going to be negative 1n. Now we have variables on both sides. We can get rid of 30n or negative 1n. Again, the wiser choice is to get rid of the variable of lesser value. So we're going to get rid of negative 1n by adding 1n to both sides. On the right, the n's cancel out, leaving us with 4. And on the left, 30n plus 1n is 31n. And we bring down this plus 4. Next step, we have to get rid of this positive 4. So we're going to subtract 4 from both sides. On the left, the 4's cancel out, leaving us with 31n. And on the right, 4 minus 4 is 0. Now be careful here, because some students tend to get confused on this type of equation. They see 31n equals 0, and they think, well, that can't be. And then maybe they decide to write something like no solution or infinitely many solutions. No, this does have an answer, because in order to get rid of this 31, I'm going to divide both sides by 31, and 0 divided by any number always equals 0. So that's your answer. All right, on to number 11. We have negative 7 times the quantity of 7a plus 8 equals negative 7 times the quantity of 5a minus 8. So we have distributive property on both sides, so let's do it. So on the left, we have negative 7 times positive 7a, that is negative 49a. And then we have negative 7 times positive 8, that is negative 56. On the right, negative 7 times positive 5a is negative 35a. And negative 7 times negative 8 is positive 56. Now we have variables on both sides. We want to get rid of the variable of lesser value. That's going to be negative 49a. So we are going to add 49a to both sides. On the left, the a's cancel out, leaving us with negative 56. And on the right, negative 35a plus 49a is 14a. And we bring down this plus 56. Now we have to get rid of this positive 56 here, so we're going to subtract 56 from both sides. On the right, these cancel out, leaving us with 14a. And on the left, negative 56 minus 56, same sign, add them together and keep the sign. That's negative 112. Then we divide both sides by 14. And we get our answer, a equals negative 8. All right, number 12 is an absolute value equation. We have the absolute value of 2k minus 9 equals 11. Remember, the first thing we want to do is make sure that our absolute value is isolated. That means alone on one side of the equation, and here it already is. So now we can solve. Now remember, there are two numbers that have an absolute value of 11, and that would be positive 11 and negative 11. So if the absolute value of 2k minus 9 is 11, that means 2k minus 9 could either equal positive 11 or negative 11. So we use that to write two separate equations. One equation will be 2k minus 9 equals positive 11, and the other equation will be 2k minus 9 equals negative 11, and now we solve both equations. In the first equation, we're going to add 9 to both sides. The 9's cancel out on the left, leaving 2k, and on the right, 11 plus 9 is 20. Then we divide both sides by 2, and we get k equals 10. Now on the other equation, again, we're going to add 9 to both sides. And on the left, these still cancel out, leaving us with 2k. But on the right, negative 11 plus 9 is not 20, it's negative 2. So now we divide both sides by 2, and we get our second answer, k equals -1. So those are the two solutions for this absolute value equation. All right, number 13 is another absolute value equation. This time we have 7 times the absolute value of 8x plus 8 equals 112. And like I said in the other example, we need to first make sure that our absolute value is isolated, alone on one side of the equation, and in this case it is not. We have this 7 here. This 7 is multiplying the absolute value of 8x plus 8. So first we need to get rid of that. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide both sides of this equation by 7. On the left, these 7s are going to cancel out, leaving us with the absolute value of 8x plus 8. And on the right, 112 divided by 7 is 16. So now our absolute value is isolated. Now we can solve the equation. Remember, the absolute value of 8x plus 8 equals 16, and there are two numbers that have an absolute value of 16. Positive 16 and negative 16, so we're going to use that to write our two separate equations. One will be 8x plus 8 equals positive 16, and the other one will be 8x plus 8 equals negative 16. To solve the first one, we're going to subtract 8 from both sides. The 8's cancel out on the left, leaving us with 8x, and on the right, 16 minus 8 is 8. Then we divide both sides by 8, and we get x equals 1. So that's one of our solutions. For the second equation, again, we're going to subtract 8 from both sides. On the left, the 8's still cancel out, leaving us with 8x. And this time on the right, negative 16 minus 8, same sign, add them together and keep the sign, we get negative 24. Next, we're going to divide both sides by 8. And we get our second solution, x equals negative 3. So our solutions for this absolute value equation are x equals 1 and x equals negative 3. Number 14, we have 3 times the absolute value of 8 minus 8x plus 5 equals 101. So now we have two separate things keeping our absolute value from being isolated, and we need to get rid of both of them before we can solve. Just like in a two-step equation, we need to undo addition or subtraction first. So the first thing we're going to do is subtract 5 from both sides. This gives us 3 times the absolute value of 8 minus 8x on the left, and on the right we have 96. Next we have to get rid of this 3, so we're going to divide both sides by 3. This leaves us with the absolute value of 8 minus 8x on the left, and on the right, 96 divided by 3 is 32. Now we can write our two equations, because if the absolute value of 8 minus 8x equals 32, that means it either equals positive 32 or negative 32, and we write our two equations. So 8 minus 8x equals positive 32, and 8 minus 8x equals negative 32. On the first equation, we have to get rid of this positive 8, so we're going to subtract 8 from both sides. And we end up with negative 8x equals 24. Then we divide both sides by negative 8, and we get x equals negative 3. So that's one of our solutions. The second equation, again, we're going to subtract 8 from both sides. We end up with negative 8x equals negative 32 minus 8. Again, same sign, add them together, keep the sign. So this is negative 40. Then we, once again, divide both sides by negative 8, and we get our second solution, x equals positive 5. So our solutions to this absolute value equation are x equals negative 3 and x equals positive 5. All right, for our last two equations, we have literal equations. So remember, when we solve for a variable in a literal equation, what we want to do is get that particular variable alone on one side of the equation, and everything else will end up on the other side. And we follow the same rules for solving equations to do this. So for number 15, we have AM equals N minus P, and we want to solve for A. So if we look on the left side, we have AM, that means A times M, and in order to get A alone, we need to get rid of M. What is the relationship between these two variables? Multiplication. How do we undo multiplication? By division. So to get rid of this M, we are going to divide both sides of the equation by M. So on the left, the M's cancel out, leaving us A alone, which is what we want. And on the right, our answer is N minus P over M. So this is our solution. A equals N minus P over M. And now for the final question, number 16, we have U equals KA plus BA, and we need to solve for A. So we see here we have KA plus BA. Now, we cannot combine like terms here because KA and BA are not like terms. And we need to get A alone in one spot on one side. We can't do that here. So what we need to do is factor. In other words, undo distributive property. So we're going to have U equals, now KA plus BA, we're going to put parentheses here, and then the term that is the same, the part that is the same in both terms, A, that comes outside, and the rest stays inside. Where did KA come from? A times K. Where did BA come from? A times B. So now we have U equals A times K plus B, and now we have to get rid of this parentheses with this K plus B. Now the relationship between A and this parentheses is multiplication. And how do we undo multiplication? By division. So to get rid of K plus B, we just have to divide both sides by K plus B. On the right, these cancel out, leaving us with A, and on the left, we get our answer, U over K plus B. All right, I hope this video helped you to prepare for the Chapter 1 test. Good luck.